yes, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new reading vlog. I have not done a reading vlog where I started and finished the vlog at my own house since like April. I haven't vlogged in over a month. I haven't filmed in like 3 weeks. It's been kind of a whirlwind of things that have gone on in my life, and I'll talk about those in a little bit, but I first wanted to talk about my TBR for this video. That way you know what you're getting yourself into. And what I mean by that is I am picking up Done and Dusted by Lila Sage in this vlog. I was debating back and forth about whether or not I actually wanted to vlog the experience of reading this book, but I've heard too many good things about this book to not kind of share my thoughts about it. I just finished It Happened One Summer by, oh goodness, what is her name? Tessa Bailey. While that wasn't my favorite romance book, I definitely loved the small town vibes. They were quite immaculate, and I have just been wanting all like the small town romance books. Doesn't matter if it's like enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, like whatever the trope is in terms of like getting to the end goal of the relationship. Don't care. I just want them to be set in a small town because I have been thriving with my small town romance books. Abby Jimenez delivered so well with hers, and I'm hoping Lila Sage will do the same. Now, the only thing that really put me off from this book is I'm from Texas, and I wanted to kind of distance myself from anything like cowboy and country related. I'm like, no, I don't want to read that book. But after giving Jan a hard time, I actually read like the synopsis of it, and I'm like, actually this sounds really cute. And it takes place in a small town, and on my hunt for all the small town romances, I feel like I have to give this a decent chance. I think their dynamic is going to be very interesting. Like the whole tagline for this book is she's off limits, but he's never been good at following the rules. And I'm hoping this will deliver on a good balance of cheesiness and like cute relationship moments where it's not like too over the top cheesy and unrealistic, because that's what really put me off of It Happened One Summer with Tessa Bailey's book. It felt a little too grandiose, a little too extravagant with their romance, and it just really put me off because it felt less realistic. But things like Abby Jimenez, her trilogy, the Part of Your World trilogy, all of those felt so real and so authentic, and I felt like all these characters were actually like real people with so much complicated emotions and feelings, and each of their life choices were because of their past, and so they felt real, and that is something that I think Tessa Bailey kind of missed the mark on. But that's not to say that I'm not going to read the next book in that Bellinger's Sister duology. I think it's only 2 books because it was fun, it was cute, like it was low energy, low stakes, whatever type of vibe. But I'm hoping that Lila Sage delivers a good, cute, romantic time. So this is the first book that I want to pick up on my TBR, and I actually only have 2 books on my TBR. I have been in such a summer reading slump, and I've talked about it so much, so I'm not going to bore you anymore with my summer slump. But I have a fun little package here, which actually, this side's not so bad, but this side literally looks like it's got like run over by a truck. It's so beat up. However, the next book on my TBR is in this package, so I thought we would open it together, hoping I don't need scissors because I don't have any near me. I'm very excited. This is actually an arc of Kate Corsick's Guardian. She kindly sent me an arc to talk about. She's actually a fellow cartographer. She draws maps using Incarnate, which is like a website map builder thing, and I found her on Instagram because of her map making, and then I figured out she was writing a novel, so when she sent out art copies she sent one to me, and that was very exciting. I'm super excited to give this a read. It's an epic high fantasy, which I know I've been like, I'm not in the mood for high fantasy, but honestly this book is calling my name, and I'm too excited to not read it because Kate has been so passionate about her book. I mean, what author is not passionate about their book? So I thought I'd go ahead and like read the back to you for you kind of know what the general gist is about. It says, "The one who destroys cannot create. This is balance. Sinir is a kingdom of magic, the one and only that remains in the realm of Villager. Kyler Wylan, a soldier of Sinir and a skilled alchemist, has sworn his life to protect his kingdom and its magic. For 1,000 years, the elves of Sinir has thrived, blessed by the god Adoni and guarded by the dragon of old. But when the former general disappears, Sinir's peace is threatened by Orisis, the god of destruction. Kyler joins the new general, Nova Ellison, on a mission to uncover the secrets of Orisis and find the history of Velicor is stained with destruction. Despite what Kyler once believed, the hands of Orisis was never far from the elves of Sinir." I probably butchered so many of those names. Kate, I'm so sorry. I tried my best. Reading is hard. I'm just delighted to see what she did with this world. Like I said, she's been so passionate about this book over on her TikTok and on her Instagram, and just getting to follow her like writing journey and her publication journey, and just the passion and energy she has is just so infectious. So it makes me very, very excited to actually pick up a copy for myself. And she also signed it, which is so lovely. I'll also link her social media and places you can pre-order this book. It comes out on November 18th, so support an indie author who also is a fellow cartographer. So of course, we need to look at the map, which is lovely. Also her dedication, I remember she posted this and it made me laugh so hard. It says, "For those who believe fantasy stories to be a horrible waste of time, it's a shame you'll never read this dedication." And I think that is just so fun, and it's got some beautiful art, and I'm just so excited to read it. So that is the extent of my TBR for this video. Who knows, I might add some things to my TBR. But now let's talk about my plans for the video, as well as just some other things that have just been going on with my life and why I haven't been vlogging and why you won't see me on YouTube as often as I have been. I just wanted to kind of talk about the exciting things as well as why those exciting things are now leading to me doing YouTube less. As many of you know, I'm a cartographer, meaning I draw fantasy book maps, and recently I actually started posting like TikToks and reels and shorts and like short form content that obviously the algorithm loves to push, and the algorithm pushed it very, very well. Sorry, there's a lizard on my window and it scared me. I thought it was a spider. Long story short, I had so many people reach out wanting map commissions. Now, I've done commissions before. I am now a published artist, which is very exciting. I will be doing a reading vlog about that in the future sometime. Long story short, the book got sent to my parents' address in Texas instead of my address here in Florida, so I just have to wait until I actually visit home to be able to grab that copy. So I've done author commissions prior, however, not in this volume, and not like, I just haven't had this many requests all at once. So the floodgates kind of opened. My email inbox was absolutely flooded with emails and I got really overwhelmed. I did end up like responding to everyone, and I have 4 current commissions. I think I have 2 or 3 kind of in the pipeline, and it's just been very overwhelming. My art takes a very long time. Like, each of these pieces easily are taking over like 30 hours each. So like, I have to balance my time somehow, and sacrifices must be made. And something else I've kind of really struggled to come to terms with is that I have a job, like a full-time job that I'm working, and I'm not just doing like my creative work as my main form of income. Like, it is a side job, and I have to prioritize my side jobs, and I have too many side jobs. And also, work started calling me more to work more trips, which meant I was away from home, and I don't want to do work while I'm working. That just seems like too much to handle, and I want to, you know, sometimes relax. I am going to make it a goal to only post every other week on YouTube instead of every week on YouTube. I don't know if every other week is realistic, like it might be like very sporadic, but I still want to post for y'all because obviously like YouTube is my passion. I love YouTube so much, but it just does not pay very well at all, which is okay. I've done YouTube for years before I even got paid for it, and I'm grateful that I get paid for doing YouTube at all, quite frankly. But at the end of the day, my rent has doubled, and my job, my full-time job does not pay me like a livable month-by-month wage. So I actually have to like take these commissions and work on them because, one, I enjoy doing them, 2, like the money is good. So long story short, again, I won't be on here as often, but I am still over on Patreon, and I've been hanging out with my patrons a bunch. Today is actually the second day of our July read-a-thon, and I have been having so much fun sprinting with y'all and just chatting with y'all. It's been so lovely, honestly, like the highlight of these past couple of days. We have another sprint coming up. I don't know what time it is. I have like nothing near me, like electronic wise. I don't know what time it is, but we have another sprint, the last sprint of this read-a-thon, coming up at 2, and that's when I'm actually going to start done and dusted. But I wanted to intro the vlog first. Another thing that I wanted to mention was I have clips that are going to be put in this vlog that I filmed like 2 months ago. It has been like 2 months since I've been trying to film like the vlog that I started, and I decided to take out all the talking bits and just kind of refilm the intro and just scrap like everything else of that vlog. But I reorganized my bookshelf, and I really love those clips, so I wanted to include them in one of these vlogs. Granted, like a few months too late, but regardless. So let's go ahead and organize my bookshelf and then we will get to reading. I'll give you an update. We'll talk more later, but let's go ahead and get started organizing my bookcases. Exciting. Look how cute this corner is. I love it. But I have a reading update for you. I started Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. I am only 68 pages in, which is chapter 7. Initial thoughts, remember how I was talking about Tessa Bailey and how I didn't like being in her male main character's head? Once again, I'm not a big fan of being in the male POV. I don't like being in Luke's noggin. I would prefer to not be in it. This is an interesting one because we're told that there's like a past history, not necessarily like a dating history, but just a knowing each other history. So we have Clementine, which luckily she called out her name on the first page, because I'm like, who names their main character after a fruit? And then you know what the very first page says? Seriously, who named their only daughter after a fruit? So I'm glad I'm not alone in that, but she goes by Emmy. But from what I've gathered, Emmy is moving back to her hometown because she got seriously injured on her horse. She was a barrel racer professionally, and she got injured and she hasn't been able to get over that mental block to kind of get back on the horse and to go back at it. So she kind of not ran away per se, but is moving back home to kind of escape from everything and maybe to heal and to fall in love. And then we have Luke, who's been at Meadowlark, it seems like, this whole time, and he took over the bar that was his dad's, except for he didn't even know that his dad owned a bar, so he kind of pulled the bar into shape and is running the bar. That's where kind of the opening scene is, so when we first get the dynamic that they have. So Emmy walking through the bar with her friend Teddy, and Luke glaring daggers, getting all distracted, all hot and bothered and confused about why he's feeling his feelings this way, which just really made me roll my eyes, because I understand that, you know, some books are written like this where like the characters knew each other before and it's not like a little meet cute sort of thing, and this feels like it's gonna go not necessarily enemies to lovers, because we already had like a scene where they almost kissed and then they didn't, because Emmy's older brother is Luke's best friend. So you're not supposed to date your best friend's little sister, evidently. So, you know, that's why the tagline is she's off limits, but he's never been good at following the rules. She's off limits because it's literally his best friend's younger sister, and his best friend is super duper protective over Emmy. Very overprotective of Emmy, I would say, especially for her being like a grown-ass adult. I just don't know if I like the dynamic. I have the same problem that I had with like Tessa Bailey's books, where it was a lot of lusting after each other, which I get, but I want there to be like connections in terms of their characters too, and like the personalities show through, and we're not just being told that they think this way. You know, I want it like truly shown. In Tessa Bailey's book, I know I keep bringing that up, I just read it. I should have read it in the vlog, that way we have a lot more context. But in It Happened One Summer, that is something that really bugged me, is we were getting a lot of scenes where one character was like, no, you're so different and unique and you're strong-willed and you're so confident and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, like we've seen bits and pieces, but I feel like you're laying it on a little thick. Like we haven't seen the extent of all of that, so there was a lot of telling and not a lot of showing in terms of like the romance other than the lusting. So I'm hoping that this will be more romance, less lusting, but again, I don't mind the lusting. I just hope there's a good balance where it feels realistic, where they're not just like horny the whole time and that's why they end up together, and instead there's actually some personal connection and character development together where they can grow and it's all cute and more realistic than just like, oh, you're so hot, and then they're like, let's date, and you have nothing in common with the other person. That's my initial thoughts. Like I said, I'm only on chapter 7, so preliminary thoughts. Things could get better, things could get worse, but I want to talk about what bookmark I'm using. I picked out this one because I feel like it kind of matches. Here, I'll come a little closer. It kind of matches. It's got a little pumpkin, but it's a sword. Look at her. This is actually part of that bookmark collection I was telling you about. I'm gonna just set that down here and grab the rest of the collection to show you. This is the Halloween like spooky collection. So we have a bat bookmark and a pumpkin bookmark, so it's not like super Halloween, and that's why I went with like the spooky bookmark collection, because we have like the pumpkin and the bat. And then we also have a little summer collection, so we have this cute little blueberry sword as well as this cute little strawberry sword. Don't tell anyone, but this is my favorite. Both of these come in sets of 2, so we have my like summer collection and my little spooky collection, and they're available on my website if you want to check them out. This was my most recent like product launch. I've never done bookmarks before, but they are handmade, hand-drawn, hand-cut. Like I designed them based off of, let me get those too. I don't want to say every order, but basically every order, because sometimes I forget to throw them in there and then I feel bad. But I throw in a freebie, and they've always been these little swords. I'll bring them a little closer if you can see. And I change them out every single season, which is just a fun little detail that I like to do with my shop. I also have like sequins confetti type of thing that I throw in there that I also changed for the season. So these are the current ones that I've been throwing in orders. This is my newest like summery one, and these have been left over from the spring. But this show and tell is becoming a little difficult, I will say. Here we are. So these two were some of the first like freebie stickers that I designed to be outsourced, and I decided to just make a bookmark of them, so that's what I did. Like I said, they are available in my website, which is always linked below, and fingers crossed, I want to have another shop launch on September 10th. So tentatively, perhaps, remember that date, but don't hold me to it until we get closer. That way I can be for sure, but I want to drop new collections. I want to do like a butterfly mushroom one. I want to do like a ghost witch hat collection. So I have many more in the works that will potentially be coming out at a later date, but I just wanted to show them off because there's something I was really proud of and I thought it looked really cute. Like the little pumpkin poking up. You can even have it a little higher where you can actually tell it's like a sword stabbing into your book, you know. Who doesn't love a cute little sword that you can pull out like Excalibur, you know? I don't know. So that's my initial updates. That is my little chat about my new products that I'm really proud of. I have 2 orders that actually came in that I wanted to pack, so I thought we could do that together for I can also kind of show off my packing station because I've never actually had a proper like packing station and like a proper studio like this. In my old apartment 2 years ago, I had like an extra room that I used as my office. But at that point, my business wasn't as big as it is. My business is not massive, but it's definitely bigger than it used to be. So having like this shelf right here, like it's full of stuff, which is so exciting. And it makes packing like so much easier versus having to like pull everything out, condense it on my little desk, and then pack orders. So anyways, that's enough rambling, I think. Let's get to packing just a couple orders and then I'll talk to you tomorrow. have a bit of an update for you guys. I finished Done and Dusted, and I will never trust any of my friends ever again. I picked this up because Jan and Sydney both really liked the book, and I thought, I gave it a shot. Like, it sounds pretty cheesy. I thought I would still enjoy it because obviously, like, small town romance is like one of my favorite tropes ever. But honestly, this is gonna sound so blunt, it felt like a Wattpad book, but like in a bad way. The writing style and the pacing and the romance, just all of it felt very novice. Typically when I go into romance books, my expectations are pretty low with what I'm expecting. I love a bit of cheesiness. I absolutely am a hopeless romantic. So when I go into my romance novels, I'm not expecting anything too realistic. Although I do enjoy, you know, romance books that end up being and feeling more realistic. Like Abby Jimenez has set the bar so high for my romance books, it's actually insane. But this book felt very juvenile almost, and I just didn't connect to our main characters, either of them really. Even Emmy, who I really thought I would be able to connect with because of a lot of how she lives her life and what she's going through, is very similar to me, and I thought I was going to be able to relate to her as a character, but I didn't, which was really sad, so that was a disappointment. And then being in Luke's head was so painful to read from, and I know that, you know, I'm a girl, so I'm obviously going to enjoy, like, the female perspective more. However, some romance books, you know, I like seeing what the guy is thinking. I did not enjoy seeing what Luke Brooks was thinking. I felt like this was not a romance, it was more of lust that then developed into a romance. And it wasn't even supposed to be that way. The problem is that Emmy and Luke have a whole history, so many years of knowing each other that we don't get in this book. Because Emmy is a professional barrel racer, and she left her hometown to go and do her races and travel and compete in all these tournaments and such, and Luke ended up staying in our little tiny town of Meadowlark. So they grew up together, and then Emmy left, Luke stayed, and then Emmy ended up coming back to Meadowlark for various reasons and working through some things that happened to her. And I liked that aspect because, I don't want to spoil it, but the decision on why she moved back and her justification and her reasoning, I just really enjoyed how the story approached that aspect, because for me, growing up in a small town, a lot of people just want to get out as fast and as far away as they can, but a lot of people stay, and that tiny town vibe for the people that want to leave, they view the people that want to stay as like, oh my gosh, they're never getting out of their hometown, like they're never exploring, like they're never gonna change. And I'm sure like vice versa, for the people that stayed, they look at everyone leaving like, how could you leave such a beautiful, wonderful community and town, and my family's here, and like all of that. So I thought that was really interesting because Emmy, I feel like, is very similar to me, where she almost viewed moving home as her being a failure, which is not the case at all. However, being someone who grew up in a tiny town and has moved, that honestly is kind of similar to how I would feel if I had to move back home. But again, like seeing what happens at the end and her decision was just like, oh my gosh, it kind of changed my perspective a little bit, which I already have been since moving. I definitely like miss my tiny town and I miss my family a lot. So I got to relate to Emmy in that way. However, many other things just didn't hit like I thought they would, especially like the romance. Anyway, circling back, that was I kind of got off on my tangent here. So what I was saying about their years of history is that a lot of it felt off screen. Like they have all this, you know, banter and back and forth of not liking each other, and we kind of get explanation about why like Luke acted a certain way, but it all felt very shallow. None of these characters felt like they had depth to me. They felt very flat, which was very unfortunate because I wanted to like these characters, especially because, you know, I love tiny town romances, but Meadowlark didn't have the magic that a lot of other small town romances have had for me. Ironically, I find that the most interesting because I grew up around horses, and my mom used to train professional racehorses, and we have, you know, a barn and, you know, horses and chickens and cats and dogs. So I was raised on like, not necessarily a farm or a ranch. It was not that large. There's like a big difference between, you know, having a couple horses on a big property and actually owning a ranch. But I've been out to like ranches before, and, you know, experienced like being in the midst of cattle and that sort of thing at like friends' houses. So I thought that I would be able to really like absorb myself into Meadowlark and experience this tiny town and just really appreciate it. But it just didn't have the magic that other tiny towns and other books have had. So that made me sad, and I don't know if it was because of the writing and the execution, or it just didn't grasp me as much as other small towns did because it felt too similar to what I grew up with. I honestly can't say exactly why it didn't, like, I just didn't connect with this book because I thought I would. I think Ami's comeback was very interesting. I have a couple of opinions. I guess this isn't technically a spoiler because it says on the back, but basically she gets in an accident in one of her barrel races or during practice, and she gets thrown from the horse, and she just has this mental block and she's unable to ride. And that is, I believe it completely. I've been bucked off a horse. It's really hard to be like mentally tough to be like, I'm gonna get back on the horse, when it might just throw you off again because it's very painful and it messes with you psychologically. So I understand that sort of story arc and how she got through it. It felt so unauthentic, and I don't know, I can blame Abby Jimenez for all my problems because I just feel like how she handled mental health felt so real and authentic and just vulnerable, and this felt like not quite to that level. So I end up giving it like a 2.5 stars. Like I said, I felt very disattached from the characters, and I think there's something in this because obviously, like I said, Jan and Sid really enjoyed this one. They enjoyed the second one, Swift and Saddled, even more. I'm not gonna write off reading Swift and Saddled because romance books never really take me that long to read, so I don't mind sinking like a couple hours into one just to see if I enjoy it or not. But this one just didn't really do it for me, so that's my little update on Done and Dusted. I haven't started Guardian. I had quite a bit of a hellish work trip. So there's a hurricane in Florida and I got stuck in New York basically because I'm a flight attendant. I don't remember if I said that in this vlog or not yet, but I traveled, I don't even remember where we traveled to, but long story short, I was supposed to be home Sunday at like 9 a.m. and I ended up getting home Monday at like, gosh, what time was it? 8 p.m. I want to say. So it bled into my day off, and I have to go and like contact our union and like figure out the legalities of how I'm getting paid because I was reading the contract. I'm like, okay, it looks like I'm not getting much for, you know, working on my day off against my will. But it was weather, so it's uncontrollable. It's a whole thing. Anyways, tangent aside, I ended up going shopping. I was in White Plains. I am so sick of White Plains, the airport that is. But I went to this mall that was near the hotel we stayed at, and I didn't realize it was a mall. I was just looking for a nearby bookstore because I went to a coffee shop and I was like, you know what would be the perfect combo after a coffee shop is book shopping. So I went and like plugged in into my GPS and it took me to a mall. So anyways, I ended up going to Newberry Comics. This was in White Plains. It's not, I'm pretty sure it's a chain, and it was more like obviously comic. So it had like comics, lots of graphic novels and mangas, and like a whole wall of Pop Funkos, which I did not walk over to because it was kind of scary. So I bought a few books. They're all manga. But I also bought, ever since going to Japan, I'm kind of addicted to mystery boxes. Like, I used to buy mystery boxes when I knew it was inside. I like figured out the codes and stuff and could like Google and figure out what was inside. But I don't feel like being that dedicated, and I like the thrill of not knowing. So I bought 2 mystery boxes, and they were little Kirby's. Look how cute they are. I love them so much. I don't know exactly where I'm gonna put these, probably in my office or something, but that's part 1 of the haul. And then I bought 6 volumes of manga, which, in my defense, they were having a buy one get one half off sale, and I was like, I might as well since I'm here. So I bought Farron volumes 3 through 8. So now I'm just missing volume 2 and volume 9. The only reason I didn't buy those volumes is because they didn't have any volume 2, and if I bought volume 9, I guess I could have just paid full price for it. But I was like, buy one half, buy one half, buy one half. I guess I could have just, I didn't think about that. Anyways, I did regret it a little bit because my luggage ended up getting really heavy, but I knew that I'd eventually cave and buy all of Farron. This is my favorite manga. It's my personality trait at this point. So I'm really, really delighted that I finally have these. I do. It is like just out of frame, but I have volume 1 and volume 10. So look at them. My only critique with these books is that I don't really like the spines that much because the publishing house is so prominent that it kind of draws your eye away from like the rest of the design. But the covers are phenomenal, so I'll probably forward face a couple, rearrange it somehow, but I'm so happy. I'm only missing 2, and then the next one's coming out, I think in like October or something. September, October, I don't remember. Anyways, so that's my little book haul from the comic book store, but I do have another book haul of books that came in that I'm so excited about, so let me put these away. I just realized that the return address is on the back, and I also realized that I don't need scissors, so I'm just gonna kind of hold it down here. This is all the way... Okay, my god, there's more. Anyways, these are all the way from the UK. They don't ship to the US. Liz, one of my lovely Patreons and a longtime subscriber, I asked her, I was like, hey, if I ship these to you in the UK, will you ship them to me in the US? And she's like, absolutely, I shall. So, I'm so excited. These seem so tiny, which like I knew they would be, but I wasn't expecting like this tiny. Not again. Okay. Ugh, God. I caved. All right. This is the Slow Regard to Silent Things. It's the, oh, someone called me out for saying it so wrong. Is it like Gall? What is it called? It's not Gonzalez. Hold on. What is this? What is this? I'm just gonna pop it up on the screen. That Emporium, not again. So that's the first one I bought. There's a second one. I just can't get it open. Okay. Oh, they're so pretty. Let me get the plastic off before I can properly show these. They're so pretty. Ugh, I can't. So we have Slow Regard of Silent Things and The Narrow Road Between Desires. Funnily enough, I have read neither of these. I started The Slow Regard of Silent Things. I soft DNF'd it. Like, I didn't mean to DNF it, but it's been like over a year and I would just start over. And then I just haven't got around to reading The Narrow Road Between Desires. I think this is probably my favorite of his novellas, but I'll go ahead and show off the spines. Obviously, they're really skinny because they're really short books. And then we have the back. I think I got it signed. If we're gonna be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Patrick Rothfuss. It is signed. Oh, I got number 903 of 1000 for The Narrow Road Between Desires. And what did I get for, oh, 247. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Patrick Rothfuss. I just don't like how he's been handling not writing the third book. Like, I don't care that he hasn't written the third book, but there's not great things, I feel like, that he just hasn't handled the situation very well. The Name of the Wind and The Wise One's Fear is one of my favorite like books of all time. I love Patrick Rothfuss's prose. They are beautiful, truly. Like, I love his writing so much. And I had to get these stunning editions because I do have, you can kind of see them. They're like kind of out of frame. But I do have The Name of the Wind and The Wise One's Fear also in these editions. So I'm glad I'm gonna have like probably a full shelf just dedicated to these beauties. I love them so much. I'm so happy I have these. So shout out to Liz for getting these to me all the way from the UK. You're an absolute gem. That is my little book haul. I did not mean to, you know, spend the money that I did on the Farron volumes, but honestly, I don't regret it at all. And I'm happy these are finally in my hands. I ordered them last month. I thought they were gonna take like a lot longer to get to me, but luckily they didn't. My plans for the rest of the day, I don't know if I'm gonna start Guardian. I might start reading it tonight, but I am gonna do a little bit of journaling. So it's many days into August. What is it, 6 or 7 days into August at this point, and I haven't set up my journal. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of catch up and set up my journal. So let's go and do that, I guess. Hello, good morning. As much as I would love to say that, oh, it's only been a couple days, it's been a couple weeks since I've updated this vlog. As I said at the beginning of this vlog, I think I said at the beginning of this vlog, where I won't be on YouTube as much because of my cartography business and just like my side business in general really picking up and taking up most of my time now. That was part of it. The other part is just mental health related reasons, which I don't love talking about mental health online. I love hearing other people talk about it and be so vulnerable. I am just not in a space where I feel good about talking about my mental health. Just know those are the two reasons why it's been a hot minute since an update. It's been such a hot minute that I like literally have designed 6 new bookmarks that are releasing. I do have an update on Guardian though. I did start this book. I'm using one of my new bookmarks, which I'll show them off later for you all. I'm on page 89, which is chapter 9. This book had not too much setup to get into the story. We have a prologue where it kind of talks about the creation of this world, and it's very, I hesitate to use the word cliche, but I feel like it is, although like I eat it up every time. But the creation of the world, there is one who creates and one who destroys, and there must be balance. As per usual, the one who destroys gets a little overzealous, gets a little too crazy, and ends up, you know, making the world absolute shit show, which is exactly what goes down in this book. In fact, the intro reminded me of, I don't know if any of you have watched the anime Ruby, but that whole story of Remnant, that's what it kind of reminded me of. And a little bit as well with like The Legend of Korra, so like Avatar The Last Airbender, like good and evil, creation and destruction, you know, there must be balance. So that's the prologue. I really enjoyed the prologue and getting to see kind of the backstory of the world in a way that wasn't like too info dumpy, but still got you the information that you needed to put your mind on how this world is set. In this book, we're following Kyler primarily at this point, and from what I understand with like the army, there's 3 different armies. There's like the Land Brigade, which is the part that Kyler is the general of. There's the Sky something, so the Dragon Riders, and then there's the Sea something, which are obviously people that guard the sea. I really like that setup of the army where there's 3 separate armies and they all have kind of their specialties. Like I said, Kyler is part of the Land Brigade, and then Nova is another character that I know is important because Kate has been talking about these 2 characters for so long. I feel like I know them as characters even though I haven't even read the book yet. And Nova was the general of the Sky, I don't remember what they're called. The Sky something. Basically the commander of I think the entire army disappeared. Like there's no, I don't know if he died. I'm pretty sure it just stated that he disappeared one day or like didn't return one day. And I don't know how much investigation was going on, but they're just like, all right, time to appoint a new commander, and the 3 generals are kind of up for that position. Now, this is where we get to see Kyler as kind of an absolute asshole. Like, I kind of hate him as a character, and I'm really hoping that we get some character development where he isn't so narcissistic, because it's kind of driving me up the wall. I hate being in the head of a character whom I don't like, and Kyler is not someone who has grasped me at all. I'm pretty sure this is enemies to lovers, perhaps, between Nova and Kyler. That's what I've gathered from all of Kate's Instagramming. However, I really hope Kyler gets to the point where he's not insufferable, because Nova, I have so much respect for her. I have so much respect with how she interacts with Kyler, who's just kind of an immature narcissist, like I said. And yeah, things happen. We've kind of got this set up, and now we're at a point where Kyler and Nova are going off. The point at which I stopped is when the action really started picking up. Someone got appointed as commander, I'm not going to tell you who, and then the city in which everyone kind of resides got attacked, and Nova and Kyler are now sent off, or setting off, I suppose, on this little like quest to hopefully defeat whoever attacked them, and also like gather some information and do a little reconnaissance. I think it'll be really interesting because Nova and Kyler do not get along in the slightest. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is enemies to lovers, but I like enemies when they're actually enemies. I feel like with this dynamic where they're both generals of an army, like I feel like they're forced to get along, so they can't really ever be enemies unless someone betrayed someone. So I don't know which turn this book will take, but I am pretty content with the amount of reading that I got done. Now, as promised, I'm going to show off my new bookmarks. I'm really happy and quite proud of my new collections. Also, just doesn't this look so cute sticking out? Like, come on, look at the dragon. I love it. Anyways, so that is part of, so I had to like sift through these like deck of cards. I have so many. So the dragon bookmark is going to be part of the fantasy collection. So this is the fantasy collection. We have kind of like just stock fantasy flower and then dragons. This is the first one. This was actually the most recent one that I made. And I didn't even know that this was gonna exist. I was just like, I have the urge to draw dragons, and this is what happened. The next collection is my like cottagecore collection. So we have a mushroom and a butterfly. They are, oh, they're so cute. And I'm really happy with both of these. And then I have an actual like Halloween collection. I already have like a spooky collection that I showed off earlier with the pumpkin and the bats. But I now have like a Halloweeny themed? Sure. So we have a ghost and just like witch hats, and I'm really happy with how all of these turned out. This is that collection that I was talking about that will be coming out September 10th. I'm pretty sure at the beginning of this vlog I was like, that's not like a set date, so you know, write it down but don't really. But it's been so many weeks that I can now confidently say that these will be out September 10th. I've already started production on them. They're all printed, I just have to cut them out. So far, I've only cut out the mushroom bookmarks. I've got a long way to go, but I had them out in my living room, and every time I'm like watching TV or just relaxing, I'm like frantically cutting bookmarks. So perhaps not the most relaxing activity, but I just want to say that I don't know when this vlog will come out. I'm so hoping that today's the last day that I'm gonna be filming this vlog. Like I said, this vlog has been going on for so long, and this vlog originally was a vlog that I started at like the end of April. I know it's kind of ridiculous, but I'm really hoping that today's the day that I can finish everything up. I actually want to go to a new coffee shop that I found. It's called Fable, and the sad thing is the hot chocolate, kind of a bust. Hot chocolate is not very good. I do not enjoy it. I don't drink coffee or tea, so typically when I go to coffee shops and hang out, I get hot chocolate. So that's unfortunate. Their food though, so good. I had a ham and cheese croissant from them last week, and I've been dreaming about it ever since. So I might get that as like a brunch sort of thing, because I want to go there. I want to work on some maps. I have obviously my commissions. I'm still working on them, and the due dates are looming over me, and there's one that I'm so close to being able to be done with. I just need to finish it. I'm going to bring Guardian in case my wrist decides to just give out after drawing and I can do a little bit of a reading. I also have plans to do some baking today. I'm actually filming a Q&A catch-up sort of video for my Patreon, so I thought I'd also just grab some B-roll for you all. I'm gonna be making a chocolate chip cookie. I went shopping the other day to gather all the ingredients. I've been wanting to do this for the past like 2 days, but my roommate was homesick, and I'm not going to be recording in the kitchen when she's home. I think that's just, there's things I'll do, but recording in our like shared spaces when she's home is not one of them. Yeah, it's just going to be a jam-packed day, and I'm hoping I can get everything done. I've been really struggling with motivation, but I've been just trying my best to be kind to myself and not beat myself up for being behind on things, not wanting to do things, and just being in reading slumps. I've only read a couple books this month, so it's just been an interesting summer per se, but today is going to be a wonderful day, and I'm going to take you all with me to this coffee shop. And oh, I also need to go to the library. That's the other thing that I was going to do, because I have one of my holds that came in, and I'll also do a little bit of perusing as well to see if there's some other books that I want to pick up, because there is another book that I want to pick up. I just have to see if this particular library branch has it. So I think I've blathered on long enough, so let's go ahead and get my day started. A bit of a reading update for you. I've made substantial progress into Guardian. I'm on page 416, which is chapter 46. I just got finished with some reading sprints with my Patreons. I decided that I just needed to sit down and read this book some more. I did a good chunk of reading the other day, and then today I just want to finish this book. It's been so fun, honestly, and I only have like a couple minor complaints, but we're gonna talk about the positives first, which is that Nova and Kyler's banter is so good. I really enjoy their dynamic and the chemistry that is being set up. It is very much so a fantasy book with romance as a subplot. It is not a like fantasy romance book or a romantasy, if you will. It's very much so the plot is the main focus, and the yearning and love in this book is very much so, like I said, a subplot, but I love their banter and their dynamic, and those scenes with that dialogue when they're like joking back and forth, very solid. And I'm gonna say the same thing about Corbin and Kyler's dynamic. Corbin is a lieutenant while Kyler is a commander. Now, I'm pretty sure in my last update I mixed up general and commander. For some reason I had them swapped in my head, but that is just a minor correction for myself. So sorry about that little bit of confusion there, but it's me. It doesn't really take much to confuse me. I really love, like I was saying, Corbin and Kyler's witty banter, their friendship, and their camaraderie. I think it's very strong, very real. I can definitely feel the connection between these characters in terms of their friendship, and that's really cool to see conveyed. Kyler finally grew on me, but for some reason, it just didn't feel like his switch up was, like, I felt like it was too early. There was a big event. It was kind of the climax of the book. I feel like we have almost like two climaxes with this book. It's very interesting, but during the first climax, kind of everything that went down right before it, I feel like that should have been Kyler's switch up to make him less of an asshole. However, it happened much earlier than I think it should have. I'm not really complaining that much though, because like I said, Kyler was kind of very much so annoying. Like, I was getting sick of this man. So when he finally came around to being less of an asshole, I finally found his character much more endearing, especially with his dynamic with Nova, who has been a badass from the start. The way she handles everyone sort of doubting her almost, she handles it with so much grace and poise. Just seeing her stand up for herself is so satisfying. So I do really enjoy Nova as a character. I almost wish we got a dual POV with this book, because I feel so limited like knowing Nova's thoughts, because this entire book is through Kyler's point of view. So it would have been so cool to see a dual POV in this book, especially with these two characters. Maybe Kate, you could do that for the next book, pretty please, because I love Nova and I want more of her. As for my minor complaints, I feel like the pacing of this book is kind of all over the place, and I don't think I would have really noticed it if I was reading this slower, like kind of chunk by chunk, but because I've read massive chunks in one sitting, because I get to points where there's such a page turner and then it sort of flatlines with the plot progression, or it goes from being so heavily focused on the plot to then really focused on the romance and then back really focused on the plot. So I kind of feel like I'm being whipped around in terms of the pacing, and that's not anything too annoying. There haven't been many slow points. I think the beginning was a little slow, especially now that I've read her action sequences and actual like high stakes, oh my gosh, I'm on the edge of my seat, like I have to keep reading moments. I think the beginning was definitely slow, but once the initial like attack occurs and Nova and Kyler and their little band, their little crew go off to do some reconnaissance, like I mentioned earlier, things kind of, well, it was slow until things finally started happening there. So like I said, the pacing's been kind of up and down, and I think this book felt like it ended like 100 pages ago. Like I said, I'm on page 416. We had this big climax, and they ended up back kind of where they started. So I thought that we were wrapping things up. I knew that wasn't the case because I still had like 150 pages to go, but it felt like the story was coming to its natural conclusion, but still leaving a cliffhanger to set up for the next book. However, things kind of, again, like stagnated in terms of like the progression of the plot. It very much so felt like many chapters of just the end of the story, but she's trying to wrap up all these pieces. And then another thing happened which had me like freaking out. I'm like, what is going on? This is unexpected. And how Kyler was reacting to that thing though felt very interesting, because Kyler is a commander, so he's, you know, worked up through the ranks to be able to be in the position he's at. And I don't think he should have really reacted how he did. I feel like it was just maybe like a little dramatic. But again, I haven't actually read like anything past like that situation in the end just happened, and I have 50 more pages to go. So I'm like, where is this going? Where is it gonna lead to? Regardless, I am definitely excited to see how things wrap up. It's definitely leaning towards like a high 3, low 4. There's little nitpicky things, like I said, like the plot progression. Some of the character dialogue feels a little stiff, especially with the villains. Like the villain monologues just don't feel real. Some of the dialogue feel, like I said, a little stiff, but nothing egregious where I wouldn't recommend this book. It's definitely one that so many unexpected things keep happening, and it's definitely keeping me on my toes. And the world building is so fun too. So many different characters. We've got like shapeshifters and elves and dwarves and all sorts of mystical beings, and to see them all kind of woven together, especially with how the magic works. And there's a lot of focus on like potions and brewing potions, and that's very important, especially to Kyler. Something else, like a small detail that I love, is how they show rank in this book. We follow military characters, like I said, commander, general, lieutenant. Most books, I feel like they show like signets on whatever like armor they're wearing, or like stripes on their jackets, or like certain things like that. But in this world, because they're elves, I think it fits like so perfectly, but they get dragon scales, and the more scales that they have as like earrings, the higher the rank and the higher their skill are. So it depends on color and amount. And you can kind of see on the cover here, he has like these green dragon scales on his ears, and I thought that was a very unique way to show rank with this army. So I thought that was a detail that was worth pointing out. They honestly seem like a pain, like I'm not gonna lie, but it's a really cool detail for sure. So I'm gonna finish this book and come back at you with an update, and then we will wrap up this vlog since it has been going on for over a month. I have finished Guardian, and I'm here to wrap up this vlog and give you my final thoughts on this as well. Honestly, the ending, I ended up liking it. I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would. I wasn't sure if it was gonna feel very rushed, or like too much was happening and too much was building up for the second book. However, I ended up really enjoying kind of the back and forth at the end. I ended up giving it a 4 stars. Like, it was a solid read and I had a fun time. In my last update, I already gave you my little like nitpicks with this book, but I think overall it was solid. It was a lot of fun. The characters I really enjoyed at the end. I did wish I enjoyed them a little bit more at the beginning. I feel like that was holding me back from enjoying it in the beginning, but again, very, very nitpicky things. So 4 stars for Guardian. I honestly will 100% be picking up the second book. If you want to go ahead and give Guardian a try for yourself, it's coming out in November. I'll be sure to link Kate's socials so you can check it out and purchase a copy for yourself. After such a long month, we've finally reached the conclusion of this video. So in this video, I ended up just reading 2 books, done and dusted, which I think I gave like 2.5 stars. It's been a minute since I finished this book, and I was not a fan. This, very much so, a fan. So I'm glad we had a little bit of balance. I really do hope that y'all enjoyed. I miss talking to y'all and giving you my reading updates updates and just reading in general, so I'm glad that I was able to finally bring this video to you all. A big shout out to my patrons, especially today. We had the reading sprints earlier in the day that really helped me finish this book today, and in turn finish this video. If you're ever looking for more exclusive content from me, we have read-a-thons, monthly buddy reads, and just exclusive content that you can find over there. So I of course need to shout out them for being so wonderful, and of course thank you all for watching, thank you all for being here and spending a portion of your day with me, and I hope to see you in the next one. Toodles!